Hello everyone, how are we all? I'm alive. But at what price? At what price, I ask you? Anyway. Yes. Going to be on with No Justice in a second to talk about some Brit Bongarino shite. And not that story. That one story, it's been done. We don't want to talk about that anymore. Anyway, how are we all, chat? I hope you're well. Pardon me. I've been watching Man United throw away a 2-0 lead at home to go to extra time, so we could be looking at another bumper crop of shouty twats in the coming days. Stay tuned for that. Yeah. What am I doing? No, I don't want bookmarks, do I? Don't forget, everybody. You can give me money if you enjoy my content. You can help me out in the form of bits and subs and memberships and super chats and all of that shit. If you wanted to, and if you're able to, obviously don't stretch yourself thin giving money to a YouTuber, because that's ridiculous. What is this? Yes, so we're going to be talking about the Birmingham bin strikes, as well as one or two other topics. Probably not a massively long stream, I would imagine, this one. But we'll see. You never know. Oh. Flying Pig United's going. I bet he's doing his fucking nut. Let's have a listen.
Legend J-Lad. Nice one, Jay Chapman. You don't like my clock, Paul Warby? Why not? It's fine, it's extra time, lad. We know it's 6 minutes 30 in extra time. 2 15-minute halves. You can work that out. Mullet Daddy, anyone else like the smell of their own? Oh my god. Well, you certainly do. You're absolutely wrong.
So that's the kind of content that other people are putting out. What the fuck? Does anyone else like the smell of their own farts? Well, I put it to you, chat. Do you? Is that a thing you enjoy? A 500-year-old tree cut down near me has become the biggest news in the UK. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, it's wrong, obviously, but I don't know that it's that big a deal, really. What do we think of cutting down old trees, Helena?
I am dead against it. Dead against cutting down old trees. Especially like, what was the one that was up in? Was it up in Scotland? The one with the one in between two hills when it's standing on its own.
Oh, that was Cheshire, the Cheshire Gap tree.
Oh, Cheshire was it? Okay.
Yeah, and that was just vandalism. But the story today is that a Toby Carvery owner has chopped down a 500-year-old tree, but they've apologised, so it's fine.
Whoops, my bad. There you go. Job done.
Yeah, that's all you need to do. Apparently, just vandalism and damage is fine. Yeah. Oh god.
I mean, only if you're rich and posh.
Well, that is true. Okay, I will show Helena the meme that you created, you fucking weirdos. Only because it's sort of, I think, how this interaction would go. There we go. That's I think that's us playing Magic the Gathering. I think.
I love that we're holding our hands the wrong way round, so that we're showing each other what's in our hand.
But I still wouldn't know. Clearly, that wouldn't make any difference for me.
And also, all the cards in our hand seem to be the same.
It's AI slop. So yeah, but I just like the look in your eyes of like, why have I done this? Why have I? It's a soulfulness there that I just can't be expressed in words. That's a feeling right there. Chat, you are incorrigible. Anyway, how have you been?
Also, the AI seems to have like melded you with one of the hairy bikers for some reason. It doesn't look like you at all.
Well, exactly, and the chat have taken to making me look like somewhat like a homeless person that they've just dragged off the street. Basically, that version of me is now just me, according to these people. I've been JD Vancified by my own audience.
Oh dear, your audience don't treat you well, do they?
To be fair, it's mutual. I do ask them to
True.
seek medical
True.
help when they give me money, so like, you know. There you
True,
go.
true.
The gap tree was along Hadrian's Wall. Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a
Right,
historic
okay.
tree and all of that jazz. We're not talking about fucking trees, Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, how have you been? It's been a few days.
I mean, to be fair, I've had a really great week. I had to spent some lovely time with my family for a kind of proxy Easter. My parents are away over Easter
Ladies and
weekend, so I
gentlemen,
spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with my family, which was really nice. It was really nice seeing them. Really nice spending some time together, playing. We played a lot of board games together, so we had a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad. I genuinely am glad because you know it's not been good. But there's the story we're not talking about.
Yeah,
Has
yeah.
been it's not been.
Outside of that, yeah, it's been good. It's been good. What about you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been all right. I've been dodging the giant rats. We'll get to that in a second. No, yeah, it's kind of fucked here, but like, you just get on with it, don't you? Really? Yeah. That's it. You just look. It's grim, but I mean, in a way, it's like, it's good content if nothing else.
I mean, that's the thing, you know. At least, we could be in America. We could be in America, right?
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. Absolutely. We could be.
I'm literally just like the scenes coming out of the Trump administration at the moment, the kind of things they're saying, especially with regards to the El Salvador deportations with no due process and shit like that, right? I'm just like the woman coming out saying there is no way that Kilmar Abrego Garcia will ever return to the United States. So it's like there is not a Barbara Pitt deep enough for these people.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's committed no crime. So it's literally just anyone, and he's going, "Oh, we're going to send Americans there next." Oh, so you're literally just doing like El Salvador concentration camps?
It's gulag. It's an actual factual gulag.
Yeah. But you know,
Which is, you know, and you know, at least we're not in that situation in the United Kingdom at time of recording.
yet. Although, of course, you know, with the Labour Party now outflanking the Tories on gay rights, or on LGBT rights, whatever, like it's a matter of time. Let's be honest. I've got a bag packed just in case.
It's, at least if Trump sends people to the camps, at least Trump is like funny. Oh God, fucking Keith Starmer. That was the most fucking boring human rights violations imaginable.
Yeah, honestly, being genocided through like sensible administration is the worst.
Literally the worst.
Like just imagine being the part of the most boring genocide ever. Like it would be a double insult, you know? That's just chat. That is just a homeless person with a beard. That is not me. Stop it.
I was gonna say as well, I'm jealous of your Irish heritage right now.
Well, and I'm sure you're even more jealous of my fucking Irish passport. Heyo! Hoo, hoo, hoo. I'm gone. The first moment of fucking nonsense, and I'm gone. If anyone wants to marry me, like, don't worry. I'm not expecting it to be a real marriage. It's going to be fake as fuck, unless the Irish immigration people are listening. In which case, it would be very serious. I can take one of you with me.
It'd be very funny to get Irish citizenship and immediately go, well, I've got Schengen access now. I'm off to fucking Spain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like what's the purpose of a British passport now, really? Like it's just
it's blue. Well, it's blue.
It is. To be fair, it is one of the bluer passports.
It's a lovely blue passport.
Yeah.
In the words of Boris Johnson.
And it's not even blue; it's fucking black, basically.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very navy blue.
Yeah. Anyway, God Almighty. Okay. Where do we want
Bins. Give us your bin update, Kev.
bin update? Okay, we'll do bins to kick off with. Birmingham is how do I put this? Well and truly fucked. Like really, really badly. Last time I think we spoke, I mentioned briefly the rat that turned up, or should I say, the human being dressed as a rat, indulging in a combination of furryism and political satire. They've become something of a local celebrity. The Selly Oak rat, and they literally turned up to the council chamber to ask a question this time. Amazing.
Excellent. Oh my god, that's absolute king behaviour.
Yes, well, indeed. Let's have a look at it. Hang on one second. Boom. I thought I'd shared.
I'm looking forward to going around, eating rubbish wherever I can see. I'm a Selly Oak and a Selly Oak rat, so in Selly Oak, all the students...
That's the Birmingham Council house behind him. That's literally the council building.
Rubbish, and it doesn't get collected, and I'm very, very happy.
And I especially love the fact that he is literally stood about 50 yards from the Queen Victoria statue. There's something sort of poetic about that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
We returned to Victoriana slummage, so why not?
Going around, eating their food, having lots and lots of babies with my wife, and really increasing the rat population.
Oh, we went a bit Elon Musk there.
By what date does the council think it will have
Fuzzy
reduced
breeders.
the backlog, reduced the rat population, and returned our streets to an acceptable state?
This is 2025, everybody.
Councillor Mummett, to reply.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for your question, Mark. Before I answer, can I say that I'm impressed by your costume, but you are lucky that Brummy the cat is no longer in residence at the council house.
What? So we are the most normal city in the most normal island, being very normal. Okay, this is 2025, people. This is political discourse.
I mean, to be fair, given that one of the things that we are kind of known for internationally is having people in cartoon character suits turn up at the elections for literally standing behind the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. I mean, it's in character. It's certainly in character.
Yeah.
For our incredibly normal island.
Well, indeed, very much so. Oh God, where do we even start? Okay. So, I mean, there is a serious side to this, obviously. One of the Labour councillors has now quit the party over all of this, because this is to do with what's being called the rat tax. Yeah, that's the stage. That's the stage we're at now. So previously, if you had rats in your home or in your garden, indeed, if you have various, pests, you could have the council come out and deal with that for free because it's a health concern. So, it's best to have that dealt with. Except, of course, because we're now completely fucking broke, like totally, like having no money would be an improvement for Brum. That's how we're in a lot of debt. They've introduced a surcharge of £26.40 to have rats removed from your home. At a time where we've had weeks and weeks of tens of thousands of tons of rubbish piling up in the streets, rats that are 2 feet long, the size of fucking cats, they've decided to charge people to get rid of rats. Bravo, Birmingham City Council. You are, honestly, I think they've taken their comms advice from the National Labour Party in terms of trying desperately to do everything they can to alienate anyone who might vote for them ever again.
It's also, again, kind of an excellent microcosm of the failure of austerity, right? So just like we saw with the national strikes, right, where we lost loads of hours and spent loads of extra money paying for people for locum contracts or for dealing with the fallout from additional people who were ill because they couldn't get seen by the NHS because of doctor strikes, and it basically cost us more than it would have cost to actually just end the strikes on day one rather than fighting them for 18 months. It's exactly the same here, Yeah. There's costing them money to have to deal with all of the negative externalities of not coming out and just having a proper negotiation. Because I mean, the council are only meeting with fucking Unite once a bloody week.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. We'll get onto that in a second when we get onto the sort of latest development. Yeah, honestly, they're alienating everyone, and I genuinely think if the Selly Oak Rat ran as a candidate next year, because we have all-out elections now, we don't have the rolling thing where you have one of your 3 councillors elected in each year and then 1 year fallow for the 4th year. We now just have one all-out election every 4 years because we can't even afford to do democracy properly. Anyway, so we've got all-out elections for the councils next year. If the Selly Oak Rat puts together a rat coalition, they could take seats because people are so disgusted with all of them. They don't want to vote Tory, obviously. The piss diamonds are only really relevant in a handful of places in the city. Reform will do okay, I think. The Greens probably might pick up a seat or two. But honestly, the Rat Coalition could work. You could see the Selly Oak Rat become the fucking mayor.
I mean, honestly, I feel like now is the right time to try and undermine the far right by running meme candidates. Like, you've seen how good the Beer Party was doing in Austria for quite a while.
Yeah.
They've got a very powerful far right party at the moment, the FPÖ. And so if they had, like, the Beer Party were taking votes away from the far right just because they were such a good parody of the failure of Austrian democracy.
Yeah. Indeed. So the surcharge was put in place, the rat tax, and the councillor Sam Forsyth, who represents Quinton, which is a part of the city. I should have turned the notifications off. If I'm going to put this up on YouTube, god damn it. Anyway, I'll cut that bit out. It'll be fine. Yeah, she resigned. But again, amazingly, the Birmingham Labour Party are as bad as the National Party because they forced one of their councillors to have to take this position, and then 2 days later they've temporarily quashed the fee. So temporarily it will now go back to being free to get rats dealt with. For how long, we don't know, but for a bit, maybe. Who knows? So literally they've lost a councillor for nothing.
I mean,
fantastic work.
They're losing councillors all up and down the country for good reason. So stands to reason they were the one who'd leave for no reason.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Honestly, they deserve...
Adults in the room. Adults well and truly in the room.
Yeah, the Sensibles update, everybody. Yeah, honest to God, a Labour council and a Labour government completely ballsing it up. Who could have seen this coming?
Thanks,
okay.
Keith.
Yeah, indeed. So, there was a deal put to workers. The council put a deal to Unite. Unite then put that to the workers, and they rejected it by 97%. Literally, like Robert Mugabe-esque numbers. That's how well it did. But honestly, this was actually democratic. That's how bad the offer was. On a 60% turnout, 97% of the Unite Union went, get fucked. Which is fair enough, because basically it's an unchanged deal, pretty much, from where it was. The council aren't budging at all, because they're basically now threatening to bring the army in. I know, at the moment it's just logistical advisors, but they're mentioning the army because they want to scare the unions. They want to scare the unions that they're going to bring in scab, army personnel. Or indeed pay through the nose to pay other local councils in the sort of area, like Worcestershire and Staffordshire and all the rest of it, to temporarily second some of their workers. Again, the false economy of austerity at work there, because it'll cost us fucking 5 times as much than if they just paid the workers in the first place.
So what was because it's been quoted as being a revised offer that was rejected. What was the actual material difference between the initial offer and the revised offer?
I don't actually think there was much, if anything. There may have been some technical differences, but it all comes down to what's called the WRCOs, which is the Waste Recycling Coordination Officers, which is like a safety thing, which they want to get rid of because it potentially clashes with pay grades in other areas that could lead to future equal pay disputes, which is the whole sort of problem to begin with. But the thing is, of course, the point there would be then to raise the other people up to that level, not to force people who you've already negotiated a contract with to take a 20% pay cut, which is essentially what this is. If you're earning 40 grand and you're taking 8 grand pay cut, That's a fifth of your wages gone. At
Exactly,
the same
exactly.
time that the council 2 months ago gave themselves a 5% pay rise, the councillors did. So they're all right. But, you know, people who actually do something of worth are being asked to take a 20% pay cut. Disgusting.
Excellent.
Disgusting.
Democracy at work.
Yeah. And, of course, there's at first it seemed like a bit of an own goal from the union, because they tried to tie this deal with the WRCOs into the drivers' dispute as well, which is a separate thing, which will come up in a couple of months when they have to renegotiate that contract. But I think it's heading it off at the pass, because they're essentially now saying that they're going to sack a lot of those people too. And they're doing a very slimy thing, the council, in saying that no one has to lose any money, meaning that they're just going to fire a load of people. So technically the people they keep on don't need to take a pay cut. So you're still cutting the frontline services, as well as demoralising your entire workforce, and making the city, I mean, a fucking health hazard.
At any point, did they offer the people who might be losing their jobs as WRCOs other roles within either waste collection or other council?
They've offered what's
Employment.
called retraining, but that doesn't mean you get a job at the end of that. It's retraining,
Right.
which, you know,
Right.
like when the job centre sends someone on a training scheme, it's to get you off the books. It's a numbers thing. It's a technical thing. There's no job at the end of that. They're going to be cutting loads of other people, because in order to make rationale cuts, or whatever they call them, rationalisations, they're going to go through literally every part of the council now, because the council aren't really in control. It's the commissioners that have been sent down by national government to deal with the fact that we're bankrupt, that are basically
Well, that's
running
true,
the
right?
council.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause your council literally don't have any control because of the Section 114, right?
Well, it's not that they don't have any control. They do
Very
have
limited.
they're limited in what they can do. And to be fair, the money situation is tight. But again, as with the national government, it's the what are they choosing to cut? It's always a choice. Choices have been forced upon you. That doesn't mean the choice that you then make is the best one. What do you cut? And they've decided this is the easiest route to go, which has backfired enormously, and the Labour Party will lose. So it's like a microcosm of the national situation in many respects.
I think thank you, Morton in chat for pointing out that they're not necessarily broke. They just don't know how much money they don't have. National government can fix this by just approving a guarantee, which of course they won't fucking do because they're skinflints. Despite the fact that they said, yeah, we've got 10 billion spare to just throw at businesses affected by the bloody tariffs. I'm like, what? That's
Well, 'cause-
double the amount that you cut from fucking PIP, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, but you know, that's the magic money tree appears and disappears. It moves in mysterious ways. The magic money tree.
It
doesn't
does, yeah.
Apparently, the people of Birmingham, it's not interested in. Anyway, so we then move on to the talks that were going to be happening, or did happen, on Wednesday, which pretty much instantly collapsed. Obviously, because again, the council aren't moving on anything. The leader of the council, John Cotton, who honestly will go down in infamy, almost Derek Hatton-esque in his incompetence and corruption. He isn't even attending the negotiations. He literally admitted that when asked. He hasn't attended a single negotiation. So, okay, I mean, you've got underlings, but, like, this does seem like the city's biggest problem right now. Maybe you could do this. They talked on Wednesday and it collapsed. And the council, rather than doing their fucking job ever, are deciding that they're just going to go on their Easter holidays anyway. And so negotiations won't resume until next week.
Jesus. I mean, literally going on their Easter holiday. It reminds me of at least with the MPs, right? They may have made a big song and dance about turning up on a Saturday to work to vote to rescue the steel industry, but you know they made a song. They made a song and dance saying, "Look, I was working on a Saturday," and like most people do, mate. Most of us work on Saturdays,
Yeah.
but at least they turned up
Yeah.
on a Saturday where they weren't supposed to be working. Whereas these people are just they're just like, "Nah, mate. Oh, no, mate. For fucking rats can wait."
Yeah. So they're all going to fuck off on their hollybobs for a few days. Won't be back till Tuesday. And as it says there, the Unite Union said negotiations would resume next week, although it offered to continue talking over Easter. So it's literally the council saying, we're not going to do that. We're not prepared to give up our Easter holidays to, help out the situation that we have caused.
Brilliant, love it, love it.
The
Excellent
PR is
work, everybody.
PR is amazing. Thank you. Adults in the room, except of course they're not in the room until next Tuesday.
Literally had the adults not even in the room anymore. That's how bad things have gone.
The adults are pissed off to the south of France for a few days. Yeah.
I'd also like to say, Hal, excellent point in chat. Last time I saw the street so full of trash is when Labour were canvassing for the local elections.
True. Well, it does strike me that if the city elections were this year, the national government might have done something. You would think. But we don't until next year, so they're hoping it'll all blow over. And again, it won't. You are going to get voted out because people despise you. And again, that goes for both the local and National Labour Party. Well done, guys. You played yourselves.
Is there do you think there's going to be an independent group running against Labour?
Almost certainly, yeah. I think there'll have to be. Because this is ridiculous. Because this is going to rumble and rumble and rumble. It's being called the summer of discontent. But I think it'll go all the way into into the winter, frankly. Because this isn't going to end with just the bins. You've got the WRCO thing, which is happening now. You've got the drivers situation. You've got the depot management thing that's coming up as well at some point in the near future. And they're going through systematically every single department in the council to try and to be fair, they do have to do that from the perspective of trying to prevent future liabilities under gender discrimination pay claims. That's fine. But when they say we're going to go through with a fine-tooth comb, what they mean is we're going to cut every job we possibly can in all of these departments, which means they're all going to go out on strike at some point then. Because you leave them with no other option. You've already shown you're not prepared to negotiate. Okay, then we'll go on strike. You know, if you make a talking solution impossible, you make a picketing solution inevitable. You know? And the council have set their goal out to do this, undermining the union. Literally, John Cotton, the leader of the council, is a Unite member. How has he not been kicked out? Why is he... Like, even if you don't want to disaffiliate from the Labour Party for whatever reason, why is the leader of the council, who is literally fucking your workers to pieces, why is he allowed to still be in your union?
It's insane, isn't it? It's insane. I think the problem... There's a big problem here, from what I can see. It's just so much of this is hamstrung by the fact that the council tax can only go up so much unless they win the vote, which I'm assuming they've lost, right?
What was that, sorry?
So the council tax can't go up unless the residents vote to increase it, right?
No, because there's a slight get around in that. In that, if the Secretary of State, who at the time was Michael Gove, accepts accepts it and goes forward with it, then there doesn't have to be a local election for it at all. So that was just negotiated through. God knows what they gave up to Gove to get that, but he just okayed it, presumably knowing.
Son.
Yeah, I imagine there was probably some slaying of virgins. I imagine, yeah. So there's no negotiation on that. There's no vote on it because they'd lose. Basically, I think that's probably what they told Gove, is that they'll definitely lose, and then we're just going to end up in receivership and be sold off to China or something. I don't know.
Yay! They're transferring their shares.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, again, I have to say to Sharon Graham, what are you doing? Disaffiliate from the Labour Party. You are paying to remain in an abusive relationship. That's literally what you're doing.
At least have a vote for members to choose whether to stay affiliated or not.
Well, they'd have to, yeah. I mean, she couldn't do. She's not a dictator.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite rightly. But yeah, put that motion to them, because this is just unacceptable. Really, you've got the Deputy Prime Minister scabbing, frankly.
Yeah, she's like the least shit of all of them as well.
Yeah, like to be fair to them, the money they give to Labour is largely to the more left-wing MPs, right? But even so, they gave money to I think 2 people who are now sitting in the National Cabinet, including the National Paymaster General, which again, this is a local pay issue, so it's not really his jurisdiction, but there is a certain poetry to that you pay, you give £10,000 to the National Paymaster General, and that government aren't giving you a fucking penny. Like, come on. This is embarrassing. Have some self-respect. and don't put up with this shit anymore.
Well, I don't know how the council think that they can win this.
I think they're hoping that it
they
gets
can't
so
have
bad. It gets so bad that the public pressure on the union will force them to fold.
But, I mean, surely the council are the ones who are going to be most susceptible to public pressure.
Well, they will ultimately be, yeah, because they can probably get around it in the short term if they bring the army in. But they then instantly kill any chance they ever had of ever getting elected here in the next generation. If they do that.
Yeah. And again, 'cause they can't have the army in forever, surely.
No, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. That would only ever be like a short-term solution. You can't they're not mercenaries. You can't rent them out. Well, unless you're Israel. Lol.
True.
Or America, I guess. But yeah, so it's not a long-term solution, but it might be enough to undermine the workers and force them to take a shit deal. But ultimately, that then kills themselves because. You can't go into an election next year, and again, it's all-out election, so it's literally every councillor who's up for election, with just having had the army called in. You get destroyed at the ballot box doing that. And this is a very Labour place. People forget this. It's not that many MPs, but like, if you're going to lose 30-odd MPs in Scotland, you're going to lose dozens of MPs in England, you're going to lose virtually everyone in Wales. You're going to need Birmingham. You're going to need Manchester and Liverpool and all these places. And you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Even if you just look at the microcosm of the West Midlands, all of the satellite areas around Birmingham, they're all going reform, right? A bunch of those other like satellite towns and places around Birmingham, the more kind of rural areas in the West Midlands. Sorry.
Yeah.
Those are all going to go to reform, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The Labour kind of stronghold in the West Midlands is Birmingham City specifically. It's all the Birmingham City constituencies and
Wolverhampton, yeah.
And because it's all the inner cities, and that's where all of these problems are at their most acute. So that at the time when they need to be maintaining that kind of bulwark of support, they're absolutely hemorrhaging it because their councillors refuse to negotiate, and the national government is not throwing them a lifeline either.
Yeah, basically they're hoping if you just win everything in London, that'll be enough, right? They're about to get wiped out in terms of councillors in the southwest as well. The county council elections. So
I think if they keep, if this, obviously we're going to talk about the DWP later, Brad. But if the current trajectory they're going on gets any worse, they'll start the London seats will fall like fucking dominoes.
Yeah, no, they could genuinely be embarrassed. They could be put down into fucking third place potentially.
Like, literally, it's going to be just Liverpool. It's going to be just Liverpool left at this rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, I mean, again, that's another one. It's not the biggest faux pas from him at all, but like, Keir Starmer came out and said, like, we respect the Hillsborough victims, justice for the 97, etc. And I'm like, motherfucker, you literally wrote for the Sun multiple times. Get fucked.
Multiple times, yeah.
You keep their fucking name out of your mouth, you piece of shit. How fucking dare you?
I mean, did you see that they released the data on how people voted at the last election, right? And the level to which people voted for the Labour Party increased with income. First time ever. Time ever. Yeah, because of course, like the poor people of Birmingham, because statistically the place with the highest independent vote, where the Labour vote dropped, was in the poorer communities, right? And in the Birmingham area, a lot of these are the kind of heavily Muslim areas, which all just fucking abandoned Labour because they came out as pro-genocide, And on top of the fact that there's just nothing that Labour are running on that benefits like normal people anymore. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that the genocide issue alone is going to cost them probably at least 2 seats here. Jess Phillips is gone. I genuinely can't see how she survives at all.
This is why I'm going to be super interested to if Tulip Sadiq loses her seat in London, right? Another stronghold seat, Highgate and Hampstead, where the Green vote is very strong. And this is an inner city London seat, progressive urban area, right? And at the moment people aren't voting for an alternative to Labour because they don't think that they can win outside of the small independent areas. If there's a by-election and there's a very high-profile campaign that an alternative left-wing party wins, that is a demonstration to people that there is an alternative, right?
Yeah.
So that breaking of the camel, the straw that breaks the camel's back there is people understanding that they can vote against Labour from a left-wing perspective, especially in London seats. And the same is obviously very true in Birmingham. We're already seeing this happen, We already saw, it's Ayub Khan and Iqbal Mohammed that are the Birmingham MPs. And then there's Adnan Hussein and Bolton. Is that right?
Oh,
And Shock Adam is in Leicester. Those are the four independents in their respective kind of areas of the country. These areas they're already seeing that there's an alternative to Labour, and people are very happy to vote for it. It just happens to be that the Muslim community is much more coordinated in how they vote, so they were very easy to be able to move around once they had lost faith in Labour. You need to get these tactical voting kind of true believers to realise that there is an alternative elsewhere. Maybe like in inner city Birmingham, where it's a lot more diverse. It's not so kind of monolithic in terms of amount of Muslims. Even the Muslim seats are in like 50%, But in a city, Birmingham, then where there's a lot more kind of younger people there, so it's a more progressive urban seat, then there could be a surge of a socialist candidate opposing Labour.
Yeah, exactly. It would take away one of the arguments of, well, you're enabling the Tories then, even though they're literally the Tory party now anyway. But
there's literally no difference at all at this point. Like, what's the fucking difference?
Exactly, but people have this long-standing idea and understanding, especially in places like Birmingham and Manchester, that the Tories are just fucking evil and bad and wrong. And even if the Labour Party aren't great, they're probably a bit better or something. And so they'll just vote with the Labour Party to stop a Tory from getting in. Whereas, if the left can put up a credible alternative that can win, that sort of defeats some of that argument and takes away some of that potential stumbling block, which is going to be important going forward.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm desperate for there to be a by-election in an inner city, urban progressive seat where the Greens can campaign heavily. First of all, because it means that Zach Polanski could potentially get a seat in Parliament. Then the potential leadership campaign from him for the Greens would be given a lot more weight. But broadly, because of what you say there about the opening the door, so to speak. I need the loot. Do you want to talk about the bin strikes more with my chat, and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay. I was just going to read out my messages, but yeah.
Okay. Do whatever you need to do.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, James Holmes, for scaring the shit out of me midway through that. I'm going to have to edit that bit out for the YouTubes. I, for one, pledge allegiance to our rat overlords. Well, thank you. And thank you to Pretty Big Oof for becoming a member. And thank you to Pretty Big Oof for gifting 5 memberships on the YouTube. Much love. Although I will turn that noise off because we don't need to be hearing that for 5 entire bits. Also, the Man United game is mental. It's 7-6 now. Fucking hell. On aggregate, not in the individual game. Yes. Don't forget, you can give both No Justice MTG and myself support in our endeavours, in the form of bits and subs and memberships and subscriptions and that sort of thing. If you're able to and if you are inclined to. Can Birmingham apply for Belton Road? I don't think so. I think that has to be a national government thing. Although I, for one, welcome Xi Jinping collecting my fucking rubbish. God. Like, you either laugh or you cry, I guess. Like, it's so bad. It's so fucking bad. I've been listening to the stream while I play chess online. Oh, I'm glad about that. Thank you. Thank you, As Friends Rust, for resubscribing with Prime. 48 months you've been with me, As Friends Rust. Are you enjoying the game? Probably not, I imagine. Yes. I don't know what are we talking about next. I'm not sure. I think we're talking about the DWP being fucking evil. Which, I mean, is just undoubtedly true. Turns out that disability cuts were going to hurt the disabled. Who knew? Thank you, Duck Authority. I just dropped a suggestion to Unite that they should pick up all the rubbish and leave it outside the council office. Let them deal with it. Ain't popular support. Yeah, I mean, I can't obviously endorse that kind of illegal direct action, But if they were to do that, it would make a strong statement, wouldn't it? It would make a very strong statement if they dropped all of the rubbish there. But again, that's terrible. Don't do that. Kev might need to get pest control at £27. Yeah, exactly. If you want to fund my pest control surcharge, if you want to pay my rat tax, you can do so in the form of bits and subs. You can do a super chat. You can scare the shit out of me and pay for my potential not getting fucking cholera or whatever. What do you get from rats? I don't know what you get from rats, but it's not good, is it? Hello, it's a Morton. Kev, are you using now? Sorry, we are using now for saying the Sycamore Gap is in Cheshire. We are using now. Is it not in Cheshire? Hang on, let me have a look. I can't believe I'm being fucking weird, champ, about the Sycamore Gap. Sycamore Gap. Is it not in Cheshire? Oh, it's in Northumberland. Oh, I apologise. The Sycamore Gap tree is a 150-year-old sycamore tree next to Hadrian's Wall near Cragloch in Northumberland, England. It was cut down in 2023, but has since sprouted from the stump. Is it like fucking immortal? It sprouted from the stump. I didn't even realise fucking trees could do that shit. Yeah, look at that shit. It's fucking back. It's like a magic tree or some shit. The fuck? I mean, fair enough, I guess. Yeah, that's wild. Feuding. It's been a good game if you're not happy with the result, but crazy game in football. Yeah, I'll have to watch the highlights later. Well, I mean, I watched the first bit of the game because I was before I started streaming, but obviously I missed the extra time in that because I was focusing on bringing you all the news. Are there people prepared to prevent the dust carts from coming from Minecraft to Scab? Well, what they were doing initially during the first weeks of the strike was slow walk-bys. So it's illegal to block the exit from the depots, but what they could do is just walk slowly up in front of the gate, right? So they all just went in a kind of, I suppose, a circular motion, where they, 10 dudes behind each other walking slowly, which effectively blocked off the exit to the depot, so the vans couldn't get out. But technically they weren't doing anything wrong, which is sort of the civil disobedience version of the putting your hand in front of someone's face going, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you.
And it's the just up oil tactic, the slow march.
Yes, yeah. And it was very effective. But then once the council declared a major incident, it then sort of forced the police's hand to sort of shuffle them to one side and allow trucks to get out and things. But they've only been able to get out a certain number of trucks anyway.
Also mad about the Sycamore Gap tree just sprouting from the stump. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was being weird, champ, because it's not even in Cheshire, it's in Northumberland. Look, I give a fuck. It's a tree. Anyway, but yeah, they cut it down and then it sprouted from the tree, which I didn't realise they had that kind of restorative capability within them, the trees. But
no, me neither.
You learn something every day.
Well, it's like a liver, because your liver can regrow if you cut off half of it, right?
Can it? Can it recover if I drink too much?
Because
I need
I don't know. I don't know if it can recover from liver damage.
Yeah. Thank you, it's a Morton with bits who says trees are cool. Boycott Toby Carvery. Feud over. What? Okay. I mean, I mean, I don't use Toby Carvery anyway, so the easiest boycott ever. Anyway, yeah. What else did we have? Did you want to look at the DWP thing?
Yes, we definitely should look at the DWP stuff.
Have you got links for me?
I do. There was a big issue article about it. Let me find it.
Okay.
I don't my bookmarks. Let me message you on the tweeters.
Yeah. I see No Justice is tweeting out heartfelt messages about my hometown here. That's, thank you. I mean, yes, obviously. Maybe that's what I can do. I can crowdfund my pest control costs. Help me pay the rat tax. Give to my Patreon.
For people who are not aware of what Kev's mentioning, I tweeted out a video from the video game Pathologic of someone stabbing rats with a
The
knife.
return of the sausage.
Which again, you shouldn't
Was
do
that
randomly.
tree in Birmingham? Trees
No, you
have
shouldn't.
been
That's
here
not
quite
good
a
for.
long time,
Let
right?
an
A
actual
few bins
professional
won't
clean
end
that
them.
stuff. But unfortunately, Artemi Baracha did not have access to a professional at the time.
Fair enough. That's some geek stuff, but I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, where are we? Sozzle Snake. Was that tree in Birmingham? Trees have been here quite a long time, right? A few bins won't end them. No, that tree was not in Birmingham. We don't have trees in Birmingham. We just have rubbish. That's it.
The rats ate the trees.
Exactly. The rats have eaten the trees and left the rubbish. Because they're you know what? They're getting picky now. Usually a rat will eat anything, but they've had such a smorgasbord in the last month. They won't even touch rubbish anymore. They just eat trees. What the fuck am I talking about? Oh, we're on a hype train. Cool. If we get to level 2 of the hype train, I will finger the Labour Party's chance of getting elected here ever again. Because it's dead.
It's very, very dead.
Yeah. Bits and sobs. You know what to do. You know what to fucking do. Okie dokie. Revealed 1.3 million people with cancer, arthritis, and more could lose PIP, that's personal independence payments, under Labour's benefit cuts. Taking money away.
1.3 million.
That is a huge number of people. Taking money away from disabled people does not mean our need will go away. Well, exactly. I was sort of joking when you were away there. About, like, who would have thought it? Taking money away from disabled people makes them poorer and makes their lives worse.
And it's just the scale, you know. Again, this is why they try to cover this stuff up. So remember, in the run up to them actually implementing the cuts and doing the statement in the House, Liz Kendall did a statement about what the fiscal elements of this would be. Again, the fiscal elements they are not consulting on. They are not consulting on it because the previous Conservative government tried to also do a consultation and were found to have been unlawful because there was a false premise of it being about being good for disabled people. It was just about penny pinching for the Treasury, right? The fiscal elements that they talked about, why Liz Kendall was asked previously, have you done an impact assessment? And she refused to answer because, of course, they had to do a Freedom of Information Act request to get this, right? They had to FOI it to actually find out because the Labour government weren't forthcoming. Of course they weren't going to be forthcoming because the numbers are absolutely fucking stratospheric as the amount of people who are going to be affected by this.
Yeah, and they knew that, and they decided to essentially try and bullshit their way through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which makes it even more embarrassing and disgusting, really, for Keir Starmer to talk about, you know, saying that he puts dignity and respect at the heart of his politics. We couldn't even respect disabled people enough to be open at how many of them are having their benefits taken away. 1.3 million is a huge number of people that he shows no respect for. He even said in their manifesto that they would work with the disabled community on policy and hold them in the highest amount of regard with how they were dealing with disability welfare policy. And they've just completely gone against their own manifesto on this. Because it's not just the fact that there was a material problem here, you know, because of course we all knew there was going to be a huge amount of it. We knew hundreds of thousands of people in poverty by 2029. All of these things are very open to the public as to what they were going to do. It's the level to which they just try to hide literally everything because of embarrassment, essentially. I mean, maybe even not of embarrassment, to avoid bad PR. Because I don't think these people give a shit. I don't think they'd be embarrassed to know that they would immiserate the disabled, because they don't fucking care about the disabled at all, you know? But at least they wanted to avoid negative press coverage. So we've had to go digging for this ourselves to try and find out what the actual kind of implication of this materially would be, because they weren't forthcoming.
Well, I'm so glad we got rid of the Tories and their skullduggery and lack of transparency in governance. It's fantastic, isn't it? That we had citizen journalists having to dig our way through a million awful labyrinthine systems put in place to try and keep the truth from you. Like, it's... Oh. And again, it doesn't surprise me that they've broken their campaign promises. They've broken every single campaign promise they ever made, of course. But it's just the ghoulishness of people like Starmer, and especially Kendall, God almighty. She takes glee in this. Going on about people taking the mickey out of the system. Did you take your chance for a £50 breakfast on the taxpayer this morning, Liz?
And the irony, of course, is that there are plenty of people who do take the mickey out of the welfare system, but it's already illegal for them to do that, and there is already legislation and action in place to be able to try and minimise the amount of fraud. And on top of that, all of the fraud is coming from outside of disability. In terms of PIP, there is an effective 0% rate of fraud as far as PIP is concerned, right? There's basically nobody who claims PIP fraudulently, and that's who they're explicitly going for in terms of who was not or is not, in terms of who is not going to be eligible moving forward for this. And like the fact that people with cancer are going to be losing stuff. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
200,000 people with arthritis, you know? And like, to top it off, Kev, this quote is crazy. This is some crazy stuff. So The Guardian were running an article about this, about the backlash to the cuts.
Well, I do have to ask, just time out before we get to that. With The Guardian being what it is now, was it for or against the cuts? I do have to ask.
I mean, it was talking broadly about how Labour were going to deal with the cuts, right? The political fallout for Labour from the cuts.
Oh, so the important thing then. Brilliant, thanks.
Yeah, like
Guardian.
how do the Labour Party deal with it?
How does poor Keir Starmer deal with all of the stress? I wonder.
Let me find it.
God, he's awful. Thank you, Mr. Peter Wood. Mr. Peter Wood. For bitty bits.
That was let me find the quote here.
Yeah, that's what we need, bro. An army of cats to deal
So
with the army of rats.
The Guardian have found an anonymous quote with regards to the idea that it's just people who are pretending to have mental health problems trying to game the system for free cash.
God.
And this is the genuine quote. Others in the party have become irritated at what they see as an organised campaign to exaggerate the impact of changes. The mental health network tend to get together, message each other, and get terribly worried about these proposals, said one MP. But nothing that's been sent to me has given me hard evidence of cases that are really at risk of losing out, which is crazy because, first of all, it's exactly the kind of minimisation of the problem of people who have to deal with mental health in this country, right? But because they don't get taken seriously. Second of all, it's this idea that there's a coordinated kind of scammers campaign of people trying to get money, describing it as some kind of fucking network as that regard. And then last of all, there's talking about no hard evidence of cases that are really at risk of losing out, when we now have evidence from the FOI request that people explicitly are going to be losing out on some incredibly egregious cases to the tune of 1.3 million people in total, potentially. And on top of this, the Guardian are fucking protecting their source. Motherfucker, tell us who said this. Tell us who said this, Guardian. These people are monsters, and the public should know how much of a monster they really are.
They really should. I think there's an ethical case for revealing a source at that point, yeah. 100%. Yeah, the idea that there's, like you say, a secret cabal of people that are trying to make you look bad. No, you made yourself look bad. And you're now doing, I mean, what's the equivalent of a disabled JQing? A DQ? The disabled question? Yeah, the disabled have been running the show for far too long, clearly. They're pulling the levers behind the scenes to make you look terrible. No, you did that yourselves.
It's also worth pointing out too that talking about the mentally unwell network is the original text of the article. They changed the text of the article after people complained to talk about just the network tend to get together, not the mentally unwell network. So the Guardian is trying to protect this MP by altering the quote in the article to take out the references that demonise mental health, even though that's explicitly the point that the MP was making.
Unbelievable shit. Fucking, the Guardian are such wankers. Again, the issue that we won't talk about, they've been appalling on. for so long, and they're just weirdo fucking shitlib Labour bootlickers at this point. Fucking,
I mean,
even the vaguely left wing motherfuckers in there, like what's her face, Polly Toynbee, going on about if they have to do cuts, at least can they do them nicely? Get in the fucking trash.
Right?
Jesus,
it's absolutely
Christ.
pathetic. Basically, the only people at the Guardian who are worth their weight in salt at the moment, the only people who are worth their salt, are Aditya Chakraborty and Nesreen Malik. It's basically it.
Yeah. Everyone else has left or died, frankly.
And also, there was an MP. There was an MP on Blue Sky who was getting very upset that people were being nasty to her on Blue Sky. Oh, why are people shouting? They wouldn't shout at people in the street. Oh, I expected more polite engagement. And she's literally one of the MPs. She's called Samantha Nibbler, who signed that fucking Arbeits macht frei endorsement of the potential disability reforms. As soon as we knew that loads of people on PIP were going to lose money, a bunch of MPs signed this kind of Get Britain Working group open letter to the government saying that they endorse the government's opinion on trying to reform the welfare system to get people into work. I'm like, you absolute sick motherfuckers. And she's out here going, wow, people aren't being nice to me on the internet despite my desire to democide the disabled. Wow. And she was like, people wouldn't shout it in the street like this. I 100% would scream at a Labour MP in the street. Are you fucking for real? I would scream at them until my face was red.
True, and only some of them would punch you in the face for it and then get fired. Only some of them would do that. Thank you. Hello there, James from the Internet Raiderinos. Much love. Welcome in. And thank you, James, for resubscribing. 47 months you've been with me. Get help. Get help. You can hit the follow button. In fact, you not only can you hit the follow button, you fucking should. Do it! It's free. And it makes me feel fucking awesome. Also, I'm here with No Justice MTG. So
welcome.
Yeah, go and check them out as well. They're not named after Marjorie Taylor Greene, I promise. I do have to point that out to Americans. It's
Ladies and gentlemen, we got
anyway.
Victory is ours.
So
yeah, let's see what's in this article, shall we?
Yes. So we're talking. By the way, James, we're talking. James's viewers. We're talking about the fact that the British government are trying to destroy the lives of disabled people.
Ladies and gentlemen,
brilliant. I know.
And we had to do a freedom of information access request to find out exactly how many people will actually lose their disability in total, because they weren't forthcoming with that information, which they knew.
Yeah. Thousands of people. Hang on one second.
You make the text a bit bigger, if that's all right.
What's that? Sorry.
Make the text a little bit bigger, if that's all right.
I can, but I'll also turn the alert box off because we've got. Thank you, James, for coming in. But you have also disrupted this with your people following. Disgusting. Thousands of people with cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory diseases are more than 200,000 people. And more than 200,000 people with arthritis are among 1.3 million who could be rendered ineligible for the Daily Living Personal Independence Payment, PIP, by the government's Disability Benefits Plan, according to official data. Data published by the Department of Work and Pensions this week in response to a Freedom of Information request from disability rights campaigner Martin Bonner revealed that 87% of the 1.283 million working age people currently receiving the standard daily living PIP payment scored less than 4 points in each of the 10 categories in the PIP assessment, meaning that they would no longer qualify for the daily living PIP benefit under Labour's proposed new rules. Now, that is bad enough in of itself, but when you consider that in order to get 4 points, it has to be worse than not being able to clean yourself below the waist and needing assistance going to the toilet, that's not enough. You're not disabled enough. So you know what they're going to do. You need to get 4 in each of the 10 categories. They're just going to, each assessment's just going to have 2s and 3s on everything, and they're never going to get to the level. They're going to cut fucking everyone off. It's demonstrably evil. If this goes through, honestly, they deserve to lose.
I mean, at this point, is there a minority this government haven't tried to screw over?
Billionaires.
Zionists. There you go. That's it. That's the singular oppressed minority that's left that's going to be protected by this government.
Well, and the rich, of course.
I said oppressed. I was going to say oppressed minority, but they're being oppressed by employment rights legislation, according to City AM anyway, which is a video that we can watch after this because it's going to be I watched like the first 30 seconds. It's going to be very, very crazy.
Okay. A further 13% of the 1.6 million working age claimants receiving the higher enhanced daily living PIP payment would also fall foul of the plan changes, giving a total of about 1.325 million current PIP claimants who would be rendered ineligible by the DWP's proposals. The Office for Budget Responsibility, the government's independent, quote-unquote, financial watchdog, suggested that around half of those hit by the rule change would adapt their PIP applications or appeal rejections in order to meet the new requirements, but the OBR itself described the forecast as a highly uncertain judgment. Yeah. The government's plans, published last month in a DWP Green Paper, are set to be voted on by MPs this summer without any formal public consultation. Just time out on that. Way to go on the decentralisation there, lads. Truly bravo. Not even going to do a consultation this time. Because you'll be found in the same way the Tories were to have done it illegally or whatever. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that there is going to be a consultation, but only on the non-fiscal elements of the bill, of the Green Paper, because there's a whole last Green Paper talk about a huge amount of different reforms to the welfare state, like with some good stuff in there, like access to be able to not lose your benefits if you try going to work as a disabled person and then find that you're not able to, a bunch of extra funding for people to do work coaching, for example, like basic stuff, but good stuff nonetheless, right? They're consulting on that. But the fiscal elements specifically, the ones that are essentially taking money away from the disabled and people who claim limited capability for work-related activity payments as part of universal credit, which are being reduced from £97 to £50 overall, as well as all of the people can be removed from PIP. Those are the fiscal elements, and specifically those are the ones that aren't being consulted on, as you pointed out, because the government tried to also consult on them before, under the Tories, and it was just found to be illegal under judicial review because the only justification for it is because you want a penny pinch for the Treasury, because actually doing it doesn't get disabled people into work. In fact, it will take a bunch of people who are in work, who are able to be in work because of PIP, and put them back into unemployment because they need that money to have their reasonable adjustment to be able to work as a disabled person.
Yeah, so they literally, not only did we not get rid of the Tories, we got a worse version, because they're doing basically the same thing the Tories were going to do, but less democratically.
I think the amount that they're going to cut is slightly smaller. The Tories wanted to cut more beforehand and criticised the government for not cutting more now. So it is less democratic, that's absolutely true. But at least they didn't bother trying to lie. They just knew that they couldn't get away with it. It's very funny. And the cuts are going to be slightly smaller. But either way, any amount of cuts to disability that specifically targets the disabled is completely unjustifiable.
Indeed. Thank you, everyone, who joined. New people, welcome in. Welcome to the Kevolution. Thank you, Jason Society, for giving 3 community subs out. That's very generous of you. And also, hello, Jason. Everyone go and follow Jason Society immediately. Awesome stream, Arena. And thank you, Mr. Peter Wood, with 200 bits. Yes. Okie doke. Where were we? Public consultation. Sparking a furious backlash from disability activists and some Labour MPs. Note the word some. Not all.
Like 30 or something? Were the ones who are likely to rebel?
Yeah, not even most. Just some. The Party of Labour, everybody. If they are approved by Parliament, the changes will apply to new applicants from November 2026, and from then on will affect existing claimants when their claim is reviewed. Which, by the way, was very funny when Chris Bryant said, therefore, that it was fine and no one would be affected by it. Asterisks until they're reviewed. Brilliant.
Incredible. It was an incredible moment, wasn't it?
Just spectacular work. Quote. These figures show how absurd it is to exclude the changes to the PIP assessment from the government's consultation on the Green Paper proposals, unquote, said Julia Mudden, Senior Policy and Campaigns Manager at disabled people's organisation Inclusion London. Quote, "It is unacceptable that a policy change this big, effectively wiping out the standard category of PIP daily living, is being implemented without consultation. This is not a minor technical change, it is a serious threat to a wide range of disabled people living with substantial support needs. We are deeply disappointed that this Labour government is repeating past mistakes, proposing exactly the kind of reforms that previously caused deprivation and despair in the disabled community, while failing to save the government money because of knock-on effects on health and social care budgets. Taking away from the disabled people does not mean our needs will go away." Unquote.
And that's basically the long and short of why this is so stupid, right?
Yeah.
Because not only is it evil prima facie because it's just targeting an incredibly oppressed minority, but even in kind of the most kind of raw fiscal terms, right? Completely dispassionately analyzing this in purely fiscal terms, it's stupid. It's really, really fucking stupid. Where you just go, we're going to cut all this money that we spend that keeps people out of all of the other parts of society that we need to spend money on to maintain people's health. And instead, we're going to just increase those budgets accordingly later down the line. It's just like the kind of buy now, pay later garbage we got with PFIs, where we're essentially buying votes now at the expense of votes later. Whereas what they're doing here is they are saving money now at the expense of money later. And then they're going to throw all of that expenditure onto themselves in 2029, for example, just before the next election, or onto the next government, whoever that is. So it's not only bad for the disabled, it's bad for democracy, and of course is going to hurt the next party that comes into government. We'll have to clean up the mess.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Again, it's the false economy of austerity, in a nutshell. PIP is the main disability benefit in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and is not restricted by income or work status. At present, people qualify through an assessment that scores applicants under a series of activities that measure the severity of their illness or disability. 10 of the activities concern the PIP daily living payment, while another 2 decide who gets the PIP mobility payment. Applicants must score at least 8 points in the daily living activities to get the standard daily living payment, with 12 points qualifying them for an enhanced payment. The same structure applies to the separate PIP mobility payment. At present, these totals can be accumulated across different activities. If someone scores 2 points in 4 different daily living activities, their 8-point total will qualify them for the standard daily living payment. But under the DWP's plans, they would have to reach these totals while scoring at least 4 in any one of the specific daily living activities. So if you're just generically disabled across the board, but not specifically very disabled in any category, you're fucked. Basically.
Yep, exactly. Pretty much. Again, that's how we're getting to the crazy point where, as we're going to read down, there are so many people with incredibly debilitating kind of chronic illnesses who are going to be affected by this.
Despite claims that PIP has become too easy for people to claim, only about 54% of applications are successful. The government claims the new rules will ensure PIP only goes to people with serious disabilities, but someone who needs help to cut up food and wash their hair and also needs an aid to dress and be able to speak or hear would currently qualify for PIP but would miss out under the new proposed system.
Insane stuff.
You're not able to speak or hear. That's not that's not disabled.
Get good. Get a bit of spawn point, mate.
Yeah, oh god. DWP figures released in response to the FOI request from the Benefits and Work website show how many people with disabilities and illnesses currently receiving the PIP daily living allowance have scored under 4 points in all categories. They include some absolutely amazing ones here. 214,000 claimants with arthritis. That's 77% of all arthritis claimants receiving the daily living allowance. Amazing. So 3/4 of people with arthritis. Amazing. 38,000 with cardiovascular diseases. That's 62%. 45,000 with respiratory diseases. 55%. 38,000 with multiple sclerosis and neuropathic diseases. 48%. 23% with cancer. That's a third.
23,000 with cancer, sorry.
Sorry, 23,000 with cancer. That's 33%.
A third of all people with cancer claiming PIP are going to lose their PIP. That is absolutely fucking insane. That is
Yeah.
genuinely insane stuff.
Okay, and this is the next two are just it's madness. 11,000 with cerebral palsy and neurological muscular diseases. A quarter. I don't know where to fucking begin.
It's evil. It's evil. Like, there's no other way to describe this other than evil.
Cerebral palsy is not disabled now, according to the British government. Fucking...
Or at least a quarter of people
Well,
with cerebral palsy are judged to be not disabled enough, essentially, which is crazy.
26,000 with psychotic disorders.
23%!
23%. So again, nearly a quarter of people with psychotic disorders. Not even just like, psychological issues. Psychotic disorders are not disabled enough.
Speechless.
Jesus Christ. It's like... how have they possibly worked themselves into this situation? How is this worse than just doing a fucking wealth tax, you monsters? Really?
But have you considered that Martin Taylor, Gary Lovener, Clive Hollick and Trevor Chin, they don't want their wealth taxed though. The billionaires who donate to Labour might have their wealth taxed. And they worked super hard for that. They worked really, really hard investing in those hedge funds.
Yeah. The problem is the psychotic disorder patients can't afford to buy a box at the football for Keir Starmer. So, you're shit out of luck, lads. The figures also include how many new applicants with different conditions would over time fail to qualify for PIP from November next year if the plans are voted through. The 4-point rule would also have a big impact on people with mental illnesses, a group of claimants that have faced a media and political onslaught. Around 282,000 claimants with anxiety and depression would fall foul of the 4-point rule. Jesus Christ. 282,000. The DWP data only shows the main condition claimants are recorded as having, in practice, many have more than one condition, and claimants may have both mental and physical problems.
Because, of course, when you are disabled physically, that is totally good for your mental health. Really, really good. I find that is just the best thing for one's mental health when you have a physical disability. And so they would never be coincide at all. How could they? How could they possibly coincide?
And you know what would make that situation even better? If the government and media had a massive campaign to make you look like scrounging bastards.
And then took your money away.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Well done. Quote, the latest DWP data on PIP highlights the ongoing challenges faced by people with mental health problems in accessing the support they need to live with dignity and independence, unquote, said Nil Gazulgan. Apologies, Nil, for that mispronunciation. Policy and Campaigns Manager for mental health charity Mind. Quote, benefits like PIP are a lifeline for people with mental health problems, helping them to pay for support like taxi fares when public transport feels impossible, help with chores due to fatigue, or food costs due to difficulty making food from scratch. The proposed changes will mean that people whose mental health problems impact numerous elements of their daily lives will be left without the vital support they need. These reforms will only transfer costs and pressure to other government departments, including already stretched mental health services, by exacerbating poverty and worsening the nation's physical and mental health.
And on top of this, it will also lead to a reduction in productivity. Which will lead to a recurrent reduction in taxable revenue, which will therefore make it harder for the budgets of the other departments that are going to increase to deal with the negative externalities to be more underfunded too. Great work. Excellent work, government. Very much fiscal discipline. Again, we were told year after year, from Osborne until today, that the definition of fiscal discipline is not spending money, which is, of course, bullshit. It is spending money in the places that you need to.
Yeah.
For example, it is much cheaper to actually fix your roof whilst the sun is shining, rather than letting the roof collapse and having to build a new one, which is the situation that we are now in because of the austerity reforms of Cameron and Osborne, and we're making that same mistake all over again.
Indeed. Quote, behind every statistic is a real person struggling with their mental health and terrified by the government's plans. We need urgent action to protect and improve support, not take it away. We are calling on the government to stop these planned cuts and instead commit to meaningful involvement of disabled people in shaping future benefit reforms, unquote. Around 480,000 of those currently receiving the standard daily living payment don't receive the PIP mobility payment. This means that under the new rules, they would no longer receive any PIP benefit after they have been reviewed. Just fucking evil. Just genuinely evil. Moreover,
But Kev, if they receive the PIP mobility payment, then they're going to get free BMWs and live like kings.
True.
Which is definitely a thing that's definitely happening.
100%,
The
100%.
return of the sausages.
Moreover, the Green
If they
Paper
go there
outlined
with
long-term
the
plans
internal
for the...
DWP
Hang on one
appeal
second.
system and
Sorry.
tribunal systems would break in a month because getting 4 points instead of a 2 is so borderline for a lot of categories for daily living.
I'll get to that comment shortly. Thank you. Moreover, the Green Paper outlined long-term plans for the health elements of universal credit, which is paid to disabled people on low incomes and usually out of work, to be based on the reformed PIP assessment, including the 4-point rule. This means that many disabled people will find themselves ineligible for any disability benefits at all. At all. DWP figures published in response to a separate FOI request show that among all those receiving the UC health payment, 60% also received the PIP Daily Living Award, and of these, nearly 70% did not score 4 points in any daily living activity in their assessment.
70%, fucking hell.
This government are scum. They really are. This is fucking appalling. It is a quote. It is a particular problem that many of the people affected do not receive the PIP mobility component. Unquote. Said Inclusion London's Modern. Inclusion London's Modern. What the fuck does that mean? Anyway, quote. This is because PIP exempts recipients from the benefits cap. It is the consequences of the policy change are that of a large number of people lose PIP entirely and become exposed to the cap. This will increase homelessness among disabled people, already much higher than the non-disabled people, even further. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, just disgusting. And again, a false economy. Because the money you're going to quote-unquote save is going to destroy people's lives and lead to costs in other areas. Because homelessness incurs massively higher costs.
It's true. I mean, although somebody's pointed out in chat, and I'm going to make a very dark reference there about how they might reduce the costs, people can put 2 and 2 together from the statement that I'm making, that there is a person in Canada who is going through their assisted dying procedure at this point, going through all of the steps to be able to essentially be killed by the state because they can't deal with living anymore, because the state can't provide them a home that is adapted to their disability anymore. So that's how they're dealing with the problem of external costs in Canada at the moment, by the way.
Wow. Canada going through its Kim Ledbetter arc. Amazing to see.
Fucking hell, yeah.
Honestly, I've never had a sharper turn against a piece of legislation than with that assisted dying bill, which, like, I was sort of generically in favour of some kind of assisted dying thing, but then I heard Kim Ledbetter start talking about it, and I was like, oh, you're just a weirdo little fascioid. No, this bill needs to die. 1,000 deaths.
Yep, agree.
Fingers Walker, which is an amazing name, a spokesperson for grassroots disability activist group Crips Against Cuts, their words, not mine, okay, said, quote, "Why, we wonder, is a policy supposedly intended to get claimants in all categories back to work, almost exclusively targeting the most disabled people?" Very good question. There is zero fraud in PIP claims, according to the DWP, yet PIP claimants face exclusion from life-saving income because Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall thinks it is us who are taking the mickey. The Green Paper was published with unseemly haste in a scramble to meet the Chancellor's spring statement. It has nothing to do with helping disabled people back into work as a moral issue. It is ill thought out, inconsistent, and contains a number of inaccurate and misleading statements. The DWP has been forced to retract statements twice by the Office of Statistics Regulation for publishing widely exaggerated figures about the increase in the number of claimants. It is highly likely that the DWP is also massaging the figures which say very few PIP claimants will be affected.
It's worth pointing out that exaggerated figures about the increase in number of claimants, they're exaggerated by a kind of rude framing of it, by a vulgar framing. So they keep saying the line that they go with, and you can tell because they've been briefed out, because they all say it now, or at least they did before they got called out on it, was, oh, well, 1,000 new claims a day for PIP are being processed by the DWP. And I'm like, yeah, because 1,000 people who are disabled turn 18 every day,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is not a measure of the increase in the number of people claiming or the proportion of the country that's claiming, because of course the population is increasing too. No. This is just a number of people who are newly being added and not even getting accepted, just applying to get PIP. So it's a really, really kind of disgustingly snide and disingenuous framing there to try and make you think there's this deluge of people trying to get PIP, when this is just the regular turnover for anybody applying for any amount of welfare in a particular government department.
And it rather puts into question the quote-unquote moral crusade that this is being purported as, and rather looks like they're trying to lie in order to sneak through a disgusting cut which is going to affect the most vulnerable in society. But maybe I'm just cynical. A government spokesperson told Big Issue, quote, "This data is partial. It doesn't reflect the majority of people who are currently getting PIP will continue to receive it, nor does it take into account our wider reforms to get people back into work."
Why? Why would it take into account the reforms to get people back into work? None of this is about work, because this is the analysis of a benefit without a work requirement.
Yeah.
This is analysing PIP, which people in work get. It is not dealt out to people specifically who are out of work. It is everybody who has a disability, regardless of work status. Your reforms to get people back into work, whether they're a good one or whether they're a bad one, I'm not going to make a judgment on the totality of them, but it doesn't matter. None of this is relevant to the discussion about people who get PIP who will lose PIP, especially given that the people who are in work with PIP are now less likely to stay in work, regardless of what those wider reforms are at all. I mean, even if they're good, I don't think they're going to be, thousands of pounds worth of good,
Yeah. Also, it doesn't matter if the majority of people are going to keep their PIP, in a sense that it's still bad that these people aren't. Like, yeah, lots of other people won't lose their PIP, that's cool. But what about the tens of thousands and indeed hundreds of thousands of people with arthritis or psychotic disorders who are going to lose their PIP?
A third of people with cancer.
Yeah, like, that's bad. Don't go, look over there. Look over there at the people that you're not talking about. What? What sense does that make? You pricks. Honest to God, these people are evil. They are evil. The government spokesperson continues for some fucking reason. "This government will always protect the most vulnerable. It's in our DNA." I'll leave that up to you to judge that statement, chat. "The social security system will always be there for those who need it with the most severe health conditions," which apparently doesn't include psychotic disorders. Okay. "And we will ensure their income is protected." No. Especially given we haven't even talked about the fact that if you're under the age of 21, you're fucked or 22, whatever. You're fucked either way. You get nothing.
How are cancer and psychotic disorders not severe health conditions, Liz?
Technically, this isn't Liz Truss, I don't think, but yes, I get the point you're making. Yeah, I mean, they are. They just are. Every way you cut it, their rationale for this is a lie. It's just a lie. They're doing this to save money and nothing more. And they should be honest about that. And then see Labour MPs still fucking vote for it because they're bastards. Too many people are being let down by a system that traps them out of work and holds them back. 1 in 8 young people not working shows the system is broken. Our reforms will support those who can work, backed by £1 billion additional funding to guarantee tailored help. This government will support everyone to thrive.
And again, it's just entirely unwound by the fact that PIP is not a work-related benefit. It's just so nakedly disingenuous. And again, they say that oh well, the number of people not working shows the system is broken. But no. What system? What system is broken here? Again, all we've done is try to cut back the welfare state, so it's the most miserly in Europe. Basically, it's one of the most miserly healthcare systems. It's one of the most miserly welfare systems in the kind of the West more broadly, in the global North. And at no point has this helped people back into work. Our labour force participation has stayed pretty stagnant throughout that time since we started continuing with this dynamic ad infinitum,
Yeah.
And they say, oh well, hang on a minute, this is proof the system is broken. No, this is proof that the healthcare system is broken. I would finish off by saying that throughout all of the discussion of this, all we talk about is the welfare system as being the failure here. No, the broken link is the healthcare sector. It was reduced in funding as a percentage of GDP every single year from 2010 until 2019. That was the longest sustained reduction in healthcare spending in UK history under Osborne and Hammond. And then we had the pandemic, which we're overexposed to because we're running on razor-thin margins whilst we cut those budgets. Far behind countries like France were spending double, like 2 percentage points higher on healthcare at the time. So we were overexposed due to increasing waiting lists before the pandemic, and then also the pandemic destroying the healthcare service overnight as well. And that's why we have a lot of people who are disabled. But 40% who claim incapacity are on NHS waiting lists. There's a healthcare issue, not a welfare issue, but the DWP refuse to talk about it in that way, and they try and frame it as a function of the way the welfare system is designed that we have so many people on welfare, rather than looking at literally any other potential cause, because they need to pretend that it's that to justify destroying the lives of the disabled.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Completely. Thank you, Kieran, for your 2 messages. I think you're absolutely right, yeah, the rights of disabled employees is totally broken, yeah. Completely fucked up. Yeah, thank you for your support, Kieran. Okay, though. Yeah. Again, I find it difficult to move past they're just doing it to be evil, because they don't need to do this. There are so many other options. Again, as with the Birmingham City Council, assuming you have to make these decisions, why are you making this decision? Why are you going after the most vulnerable and the least able to defend themselves? Oh yeah, it's because you're an evil person. You're a bully. You're a piece of shit. You are the Conservative Party.
Yep. They're
That's
just
it.
evil. Just evil. It's the only explanation at this point. Just fully rotten, blackened-hearted monsters.
Well, I've always thought that about Liz Kendall anyway.
I mean, that is true. She's basically always been that. But now she's been given access to power, and she is wielding it against the people that she wants to destroy the lives of.
Yeah. Do you have a link to the article? There you go. I'll post it in both of my chats for anyone who wants to go and check that out. And also help if you want to drop a few quid to your local big issue dealer as well. Always a good thing to do. Anyway. Any more on this, or should we move on to whatever it was the other thing we wanted to watch?
Yeah, let me shoot you the video. I think I've said my piece on this. Obviously, most people will have heard my takes on the PIP stuff a million times, but knowing the figures now and just how the fact the government didn't publish it until they got FOI just shows you how little they care.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was never about the moral crusade to try and stop the anti-work pipeline and all this fucking rubbish. They never give a shit.
I think just Andy pointing out, that it's because they are the least able to defend themselves that they're going after, and that's the thing, right? Is that there's this lie where they talk about, we have to take difficult decisions. I'm like, no, taking very easy ones. This is literally the easiest decision in the world.
Yep.
It is incredibly, demonstrably easy because literally they have no way of fighting back.
Indeed. Is this Sam Cedar's Wario? I think it might be.
I mean, to be fair, we've spent the last half an hour taking the piss out of Labour, whereas this is actually going to be technically us defending Labour, but it is specifically the trade unions part of the policy prospectus and not Morgan McSweeney, so I feel okay doing so.
So not really the Labour Party then?
No.
Business Secretary Johnny Reynolds was so fed up with people criticising him for never having run a business that he went and bought
I
himself
have
a
to pop
whopping
back to
great
start again so
steel
I get
mill in
the right volume on the recording.
Yeah.
Business Secretary Johnny Reynolds was so fed up with people criticising him for never having run a business that he went and bought himself a whopping great steel mill in Scunthorpe. Now firmly a member of the boss class, will he have sympathy with the business chiefs who this week begged the government to rip up their looming employment rights bill? Welcome back to the Week in Business with me, Christian May.
I must say,
You're already a
I've
piece
never
of shit.
yeah, I've never seen somebody who gives off as much wanker energy as this guy.
Yeah, that is honestly. I can't say what I want to say.
I mean,
In terms of service, just stop me.
It's just the worst part is to start by saying, well, this person who's the business secretary has never run a business before. Who fucking cares? Who gives a shit? Right? Do you think the people in Clement Attlee's administration who were weavers or lorry drivers or miners or teachers or whatever, do you think they had specific expertise in whichever departments that they were
Yeah, I was
appointed
about
as
to say,
secretary of state to?
Nye Bevan was a miner, and he founded the most successful healthcare service probably in the Western world.
Until 2010.
Until 2010, yeah. To be fair, that
Well,
you can't blame that on him. He left it in very good condition. You know.
And also, I understand that it's a joke, but just so people know, when a government nationalises something, they don't become the boss.
No.
They don't become the boss of the industries they nationalise. In most cases, there is an arm-the-length administration that runs it, and then there is a boss appointed by the government, right? If anything, they're more like the shareholder rather than the boss.
Well, exactly.
Stupid analogy.
Yeah, the transport secretary is not doing the fucking train timetables.
No.
Like, they're not,
and on top
you
of this, they haven't even nationalised it yet. They're just paying for materials.
Yeah, they don't even have the balls when the only option available is to nationalise. They still won't.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, they're absolutely worthless.
Ministers insist that their reforms to employment law will be good for business, good for workers, and good for the economy. Actual employers, on the other hand, warn that the measures, largely written by trade unions, will be deeply damaging to economic growth and will worsen living standards in the UK.
That's an insane thing, really, isn't? Like, how could it possibly worsen living standards? Maybe for billionaires and shareholders, maybe for ultra-wealthy bourgeois people, they will have to cut down from Barolo to a slightly cheaper wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Potentially.
I was about to say, how are you going to affect my living? I'm swimming in a sea of rubbish right now. How is my living standards going to go down? You're going to piss on me as well? I don't know. What? Ridiculous.
Literally, it's just like the employees and the trade unions say this is going to be really good for people, but the people who stand to lose out, 'cause they might have to pay workers a bit more and pay more in sick pay, they are dead against it, and they will definitely sure that it will worsen living standards, but they don't say who for. I wonder why.
Yeah, interesting.
Living standards. We've been critical of large parts of the Employment Rights Bill ever since it first reared its head, and we certainly haven't been alone in that. Employment lawyers, small business owners, large employers, basically anyone who knows what they're talking about, have warned that however well...
That it's just, essentially is, well, unless you are the bourgeois, you don't understand the economy, so keep your shiny little head out of it. You know?
Yeah.
That's the line they're going with. Him specifically saying that the only people who know what they're talking about are people who aren't workers, people who own the means of production. Like how much more of a capitalist cockbag do you have to be?
Yeah. How did I misspell the word yes? Oh, that's bad. Well, it's a typo, I suppose, but even so. Yeah, I am in Birmingham, to the person who asked. As you can tell by the fact that I can't spell a three-letter word.
And on top of this, I would like to point out, I don't care. I do not give a shit what small, large employers and kind of business lawyers think about this issue. I couldn't give 3 shits. 2 shits. Not a singular shit, actually.
Yeah. I will give you minus shits. That's how many shits I'll give. Which technically means he'd have to give me shit. Oh, it's a weird analogy. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm almost in the position of wanting to do spite politics. The fact that they think this is bad means we should do it.
100%.
Like, because I've been told all of my life that the things they want will work and make everything better, and they've gotten everything they want, and it's gotten worse. So let's do the opposite of what they want. It can't but get worse, so let's do the opposite of what they want. It might work.
Well, again, like we've had worsening living standards while stripping back employment rights for the last however long, you know? Like, we've tried that over and over again. That hasn't worked. Maybe it's time to try something else.
Yeah, very much so. What do you think of Tommy Shelby's Bromiacs? Well, he is a fictional character. But if you mean what do I think of the acting chops of the great Cillian Murphy, I approve. People like that, he does sound like he's a Bromo, to be fair.
Intentioned Labour's reforms are, the consequences will not be a workers' paradise, but a private sector entangled in mountains of red tape, facing...
Good! I hope you drown in red tape, you bastards. Good. Fuck ya. I've had enough of this. We need to cut red tape. It was cutting red tape that allowed fucking 2008 to happen, you pricks.
Grenfell?
Yeah, exactly.
Hello?
Like, fuck you. I want to tie you up in red tape. I literally want to mummify you in red tape.
Legal challenges at every turn and deterred from creating jobs. Now, last night, City AM got hold of a highly unusual letter that has today been sent to every member of the House of Lords. Signed by the CBI, the Institute of Directors, the Federation of Small Business, the British Chambers of Commerce, and Make UK, the manufacturers.
Oh, wow, the Avengers of Evil. Cool.
I mean, literally, the Chamber of Commerce is like one of the most evil institutions. It is literally like the trade union for businesses, and it most of the time is representing specifically large businesses as well. It is just like the absolute kind of head of like the multi-headed hydra of kind of the aspects of evil, really. Like the worst people, just there to lobby to try and get these things as watered down as possible so they can improve their profit margins at the expense of workers. So you can't take anything they say at face value with regards to what's bad for the economy at large, it's going to worsen living standards, because it's not in their interest to say anything else, you know?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whether it was true or not, they would still say it, because they have to say it to try and lobby against these interests, because that's what they are there to do. They are there to lobby for the interests of the shareholders of businesses, not for the workers who have to do the work. And again, he says, oh, it might deter creating jobs. Well, unless it literally makes it unprofitable to employ people, no, it won't.
Yeah.
They will still be the labour available if the demand is available for the commodities they're producing. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but City AM has gotten hold of a letter signed by Hitler and Satan and the concept of evil, so it's fine. It's fine. That they're telling the truth. We can definitely believe them. Yes, I did just compare the CBI to Hitler, and I will not be taking it back.
Association. The letter is in effect signed by tens of thousands of employers across the full spectrum of business sizes, locations and sectors. In other words, it carries some serious weight. And this isn't just special pleading for an easier ride. The letter is surgical in its critique of the proposal.
Yes, it literally is. That's exactly what it is. What the fact that you've felt the need to say that, I think gives away rather that that's precisely what it is, actually.
And this is time for some basic Marxism, right? In the all capitalism is material relations. It's material relations between a conflicting interest of the working class who sell the labour for a wage and the bourgeois who earn the means of productions and buy labour for the wage that they pay. You know, there is a material conflict there, and that is why there is a necessary employment legislation to stop people who have the power, the means of production, from being able to reduce the power and the spending power of the working class, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of Marxism, to understand this very specific dynamic and to try and paint them as just kind of dispassionately giving a kind of holistic critique of this for the good of everybody rather than the good of themselves is trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, right? There is a material relationship at play, and this is essentially what they have a fiduciary responsibility to do. Every single boss, every single employer here who have signed on to this has a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to maximize revenue. To maximize revenue, you need to have wages as low as possible. You have to have wages as low as possible because at the end of the day, the material conflict is about how much profit is turned back to shareholders and how much of it is used to pay workers. Because every extra penny a worker has to get paid, that comes out of shareholder dividends. That is the conflict at play here. And so to maximize shareholder dividends, they have to minimize wages as much as possible. They have to minimize the amount that they spend on sick pay and employee benefits. They have to get rid of these as much as possible to maximize that return. Yeah. And that's what they have to do under capitalism. That's a responsibility as directors for shareholders.
Yeah. But I've said this before, capitalists don't understand capitalism. look at the way they talk about all of the players in this situation. So they'll talk about the trade unions not looking after their members or having having an understanding of that kind of class dynamic. No, there's some sort of nefarious group who are intent on destroying the good, peaceful cooperation of the worker and the boss. No, they're not. That's not how that works. They have material interests, i.e., getting best conditions they can for their own workers, for their members, right? And they talk about capitalists as some sort of noble class of wealth creators. Again, this is not how any of this works. These are not the dynamics at play here. You don't understand what you're talking about, mate. Anyway.
Those changes to employment law, and very constructive when it comes to how changes should be made that support the aims of the bill without the devastating consequences many businesses now fear. As the authors note, for us the challenge has never been what...
Okay, if the aims of the bill supposedly were to expand workers' rights, what workers' rights would the capitalist class expand in any way? In what way would they be happy with the expansion of any workers' rights? Please do tell me, friend.
Because again, you have to be a liberal to just ignore the obvious material reality at play here.
Yeah.
And he knows, right? This guy you're watching, he fully well knows that everyone can, at like a base level, can understand that an employer doesn't want these things to happen. So he is taking extra care to say, no. They genuinely support the aims. They just think the execution is slightly off. And I'm like, well, no, they don't support the aims, do they?
No.
Let's be real here. Let's understand the materiality and stop trying to massage this to defend people doing what's in their interest, right? At the very least, if he'd come out and say, well, these are businesses who want to maximize profits and they're going to say this, at least I'd have some respect. But the fact that he's just trying to pull the wool over the audience's eyes here to try and pretend that businesses have other intentions than the ones they say they do, like, come on, mate, pull the other one.
Have we done a school check on this guy?
Oh, excellent idea. Excellent plan.
Because that's always an interesting one. He does sound
Christian
a bit
May,
plummy.
is it called?
Yes, Christian May. I don't know what he may do or may not do, but apparently he may. Yes.
Christian May, editor-in-chief of TM. Let's look at his LinkedIn profile, shall we?
Let's go.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Can't do a fucking tie-up properly, Pratt.
Oh, God, I can't... Wants me to sign into LinkedIn. I'm just going to inspect
no.
Element and get rid of this bloody...
No. I don't think so. He sounds a bit plummy. He doesn't sound quite Eton, but maybe like one of the minor schools. Or maybe he went to like a comp, but then to, PPE at Oxford or something. He's not quite got the Boris Johnson kind of plumminess to him.
Where is the Element with this thing that's over the top stop me from reading the article? How dare you? Is it this one? No, that's the wrong Element.
This has been a distraction.
Just deleting loads of elements at random now until it deletes the right one.
You're going to break the internet.
I'm going to break the internet. Oh, just lets me close the thing. I'm fucking idiot, aren't I? He went to Truro School and City University London with a Master of Arts in Broadcast Journalism.
Okay. That's an interesting...
So he doesn't get no business acumen at all.
Yeah.
If he's going to talk about people with business acumen.
You say Truro School?
A co-educational private boarding school.
There you go. See, I told you he wasn't going to be at one of the big schools. He wasn't going to be at Harrow or Eton. You can usually tell by the accent, because those are really posh motherfuckers.
I mean, it's 11 grand a term.
Wanker. It's inevitable as clockwork, everyone. Inevitable as clockwork. They, again, to quote Bill Carlin, they're all part of a big club, and you're not invited.
Very true.
The government wants to achieve, but the unintended consequences of how they implement it. As the bill works its way through the House of Lords, businesses are urging Parliament to make specific changes. For example, they warned that the policy of protecting employees from unfair dismissal from day one of a new job will make businesses more cautious about creating new jobs when taking...
Oh no, you'll have to give people rights. Oh, that's terrible. If you can't run a business, then I suppose you'll just have to fuck off,
And again, this isn't the bit of it's the full employment rights from day one, like trying to legislate to have more restrictive laws over what you can do in a probationary period. No, this is protection from unfair dismissal.
Yeah.
Like like if it's unfair, then it's unfair. Whether you've been there 1 week, 1 year, or a decade doesn't make any difference as to the unfairness of the dismissal.
Yeah. I mean, because if you're not going to give them unfair dismissal protection, does that mean they even have to turn up for the first few months? Because it's not unfair absences as well, then, right?
Get the fuck,
Surely.
like I'm not playing with all these mutants.
Literally, I mean, my assumption is the justification is going to be, well, they might have to pay for lawyers to do litigation when they fire people quickly, even if they win. But then again, if you win the claim, isn't it the person who loses who's liable for the legal fees in that case?
Yeah.
Am I thinking wrong?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't. Anyway. Hello there, Hannah Reloaded. Welcome in. The Hannah Reloaded ites. Yeah, that'll do. I'm Kevin Logan, a socialist from the UK. We're currently watching this private school wanker tell us how workers don't deserve rights.
Yep.
I'm here with No Justice MTG. She is awesome.
I am very much awesome. It is true.
This is true.
And the risk of trying to grow because dismissals from day one will count as redundancies and could therefore
And when
trigger...
I say she's awesome, I mean go and follow her. I wasn't just making a general statement. I was trying to sell you the idea of following. There you go.
collective consultation requirements. Furthermore, the proposal to enshrine in law a legal right for workers to be offered a guaranteed hours contract instead of a flexible or a 0 hours contract will cause havoc among employers whose demand for staff is seasonal.
It's interesting that the British economy managed to survive forever up until very recently when the 0 hour contract was instituted as a possibility. We were fine.
Yeah.
Look, when they talk about this, like, oh, it would create havoc, as if we haven't had that situation and it wasn't havoc forever. Oh, we can't tax the rich. That would destroy. That would completely destroy the basis of the foundations of our reality. It would rip a hole in the time-space continuum. No, it wouldn't. We've been doing that for the last fucking 70 years. It was fine. It's ridiculous. They try and sell us things that were basic, normal practices for potentially hundreds of years in some cases, and try and sell them as if, well, if we institute those now, it's going to destroy everything. No, it isn't. It'd be fine. If you can't offer people any actual guaranteed hours, why should they give you any loyalty whatsoever in terms of turning up for your fucking work?
Exactly. And even then, like, seasonal employers might have difficulty with staff contracts. Well, you have to give them contracted hours.
Yeah.
You can have that contracted hours for a specific season of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to give them a 0 hour contract for them to have a seasonal employment.
Yeah, if it's seasonal, so, it's like fruit picking. Okay, let's say the 2 months you need them, you give them a 2-month contract with guaranteed hours.
Yeah.
Fair enough, that's fine. They can then take that or leave that, that's fine. What you can't do is Gangaman style fucking maybe we'll give you work, maybe we won't, because that's just a fucking peasant economy. That's a joke. It's not literally a peasant economy, by the way. I mean, like, it's a peasant-minded economy. That's taking us back 100 years to where people would literally have to line up in front of the work exchange, and the evil Gangaman would come along and just go, you, and you, and put you in the back of a van, and away you went. And the other people starved. Yeah, it's evil. That's what they want to get back to. It's the first step on the road back to feudalism,
or unpredictable, and it will penalise the very people for whom flexible or periodic work is essential.
Okay, stick with me. Why does flexibility only ever go one way? Why is it the worker needs to be flexible for the employer, and never ever the employer has to be flexible for the worker?
And on top of this, in the current legislation, that's acceptable. Workers can suggest themselves to have 0 hours contracts, to have flexible or periodic work if they want. What the legislation does is stop them from unilaterally imposing it upon their employees.
Yeah.
The worker wants it, they can have one. because that's why they're saying with the exploitative 0-hour contracts, right? You know, the unions want it to go further and get rid of it for everybody, you know. But even in the current legislation as written, you can still try for one if you want one yourself, if you approach the employer for it, but not the employer can't suggest it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there are some people who that might benefit. You know, some people who need that kind of arrangement. That's fine, but again, it's the exploitative element of it. As always with capitalism, I suppose, it's the fact that that will be taken advantage of, and people will be forced into this situation. People who need guaranteed work because they have guaranteed mouths they have to feed.
Exactly. Or guaranteed bills they have to pay. Those things that just magically only appear when you're in work.
Yeah.
Or when your employer tables you in for a shift, you know? If your employer doesn't, that's the thing that people don't realize. If your employer doesn't table in for a shift, you don't have to pay your rent. Or your electricity or council tax. You get special dispensation not to pay if your employer doesn't schedule you in for work.
Yeah. It's good, that, isn't it?
As the letter says, this change provides no clear benefit to workers.
Really? And I definitely believe that the CBI have the best interests of workers at heart and are telling the truth there. No, I definitely believe that. Yeah.
I would like to put on record, this is circumstantial, anecdotal evidence. I know literally 0 people who want a 0 hours contract. Nobody.
Yeah.
And yet I know loads of people who have been forced onto 0 hour contracts against their will because that was part of the employment contract. I have worked a 0 hour contract before. It was for CX and it was shit. Yeah. I did not want to work for one, but I needed a job in a tough labour market. So I took whatever was on offer, which is the case for a lot of people, especially those who didn't at the time have any formal qualifications. Yep. Or any formal experience, you know? Lots of people have to take jobs that they don't want to do and that they feel like they have to accept to be able to pay the bills. And at the time, employers could get away with 0 hour contracts. I had to leave because my hours got reduced down to 10 hours a week. I couldn't afford my bills. Yep. They forced me out by reducing my hours. They didn't have to force me to leave, so they didn't have to fire me, right? That's what 0 hour contracts do. That is a tangible benefit for workers and for employees there, Christian. So for this letter to say there's no tangible benefit is quite frankly a load of made up bollocks.
Yeah, it basically takes away the power of the employer to act like a god by removing that power from employers. It gives a sense of some element of stability to the life of workers. I know that having a guaranteed income if you do the work, it is actually quite rewarding, knowing that you can pay your bills and feed your family and not be on the streets because your employer went, we don't need you this week, bitch.
But have you considered that it's social media that's making young people not want to work? It's too many phones. It's not because they've spent their entire life in the world of work dealing with exploitative fuckasses in the employment sector. Like, employers wanting to bleed them dry, and they're not even giving them the stability of being able to have a contract for work that means they have a guaranteed income to pay the bills that they can already struggle to be able to pay in the first place. And those bills are also sporadic, and you get kicked out of your house at any point. Isn't it great, this world we've built for young people, chat?
Yeah, like the old argument of an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. It was always a lie to an extent, and now it's just a total fraud.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way. For anyone under, a certain amount of wealth that's already accrued, basically. Or people who are very lucky.
And the business groups suggest the reasonable alternative that people should have the right to request a contract of guaranteed hours.
They already do? What are you talking about? You can request it. You can request anything. What? Oh, that's nothing. Basically, you're offering them the right to speak. Thanks.
The letter goes on to set out very specific concerns about changes to the power of trade unions, changes to statutory sick pay, and changes to the rules around dismissal.
Also, hang on, time out, Home Slice. Right, you're going to give them the right to request a thing. They already have that, so you're not giving them anything there. And secondly, why, if 0 hour contracts are so fantastic and getting rid of them is such a bad idea, why would any worker ever request from their employer to get rid of the 0 hour contract? Because it's so good for workers, right? So why would anyone ever make that request? So why would they need the right to request? Oh yeah, you're full of shit. Yeah.
The thing is that it's crazy for him to say things like, oh, well, the businesses say that it's bad that the trade unions are going to get more it's crazy for this guy to say that the trade unions are going to get more rights and that's really bad and the employers don't like it. Well, yeah, of course the employers don't like it, going back to my Marxist point earlier. But just like, when has the power of trade unions ever not been correlated with better living standards for the working class, right? Look at every country across Europe. All the countries which have the highest living standards for working class people are all the countries with strong trade unions.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the employers don't like it, but this isn't a bad thing for living standards, which again is the central claim of this video.
Yes.
Got to remember, this is the central claim, is that it's bad for living standards and for the economy. And I'm like, economy's growing pretty well in Norway, living standards pretty good in Denmark, but it's got pretty strong trade unions. And on top of this, talk about dismissals of employees and changes to contracts of terms of employment. I'm just like, well, that's just good for workers. Again, you're not explaining how this is bad for the economy at all yet. Maybe he'll get to it. But all this is just a whinge. It's a whine for employers that they can't have their cake and eat it too, having been treated as basically like gods ever since 1979 in terms of how we have created our economy and our labour economy especially.
Yeah.
Of employees and changes to contracts or terms of employment. The authors conclude that unless the Employment Rights Bill is amended to take into account the perspectives of employers, then it will have a deeply damaging impact on the government's growth missions and will simply stifle innovation and productivity. In short...
Wow, you're not very good at innovation and productivity if this one piece of pretty milquetoast legislation is enough to fuck you up. I would argue you're not very good at this, and you should probably try learning to code.
And also, how would it harm innovation? Like, genuinely, how would it harm innovation? Innovation is a way of maximizing total factor productivity to be able to ensure that you can create the most amount of commodities from the existing workforce. If anything, it's going to encourage people to innovate more because they're going to be so constrained by all the extra money they're spending on litigation and wages that it's going to be necessary for them to maximize their revenue by having the best ways of working, rather than what they did before, which was coast off of rock bottom wages and the rentier economy to make money out of nothing because it was easy for them. So there was no need for them to innovate because they had guaranteed profits in their infinite money glitch that had been created by the immiseration of working standards up to now. Like, there's no actual data being provided to prove any of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like you say, they're just whinging.
Yeah, it's a whinge.
Yeah.
Labour MPs and highly paid trade union officials can sit back and...
Highly paid? You want to tell me about how much the leaders of industry get paid?
Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look. So I believe it's Rupert Soames.
Yes, I believe so.
Who's the head of the CBA? How much does he get paid?
Probably quite a lot of money. On top of the millions he's already worth, of course.
Rupert Soames.
Also, friend,
salary.
I thought the argument that capitalists make is that you need to pay the best wages to get the best people. So why wouldn't trade unions want to employ people at high wages to get the best people?
So in 2021, before Rupert Soames stepped down as the chair of Serco, he was paid £4.9 million.
Oh yeah, I definitely reckon the leader of Unite gets that kind of money. Lol. Fucking hell, these people are trash. Honest to God. Again, they don't understand capitalism. And they're happy to sort of sell their basic principles down the river when it suits them. Paying people highly is bad in this one particular instance or something.
And it's also worth pointing out, again, he says one of the biggest things that's going to happen is it's going to stop the mission for higher growth. Well, according to the International Monetary Fund, the biggest symptom or the biggest cause of growth in economies in Europe has been increases in wages and the consumption power of workers.
Yeah.
So that just goes completely contrary to the claims being made here.
Yeah, because if you pay workers, they'll spend that in the economy. If billionaires get more money, it just goes to the Cayman Islands or Switzerland.
Or the liquidity gets pumped into existing asset markets.
Yeah.
Right. Again, this is the Keynesian multiplier in action. But then again, all of the people who work for City AM, who've been to private school, have essentially been kind of indoctrinated into a bunch of monetarist groupthink where they assume that Keynes was wrong regardless of the merits of the claims, and of course the decades and decades and decades of success of Keynesian economics ever since the Great Depression.
Yeah, indeed.
And think it's a job well done, that they've put a stopper over the capers of those dastardly capitalists. The people who will suffer from this bill are those who do not get a job, who do not get a foot on the employment ladder, who do not move from welfare into work because the new laws make it harder, more complicated and more risky to take on new staff. And so, while Jonathan Reynolds currently poses as the saviour of British steel and the thousands of jobs supported by that industry, the government's commitment to pushing through their employment rights bill demonstrates that ministers still haven't got a clue about the realities of the private sector and the combination of risk, investment, time, money and uncertainty that goes into the creation of every single private sector job.
God, you're a bootlicking piece of shit.
Just in general, right?
Yeah.
If you need workers' wages and employment rights to be watered down for you to be able to be a successful business, you don't deserve that fucking business, mate.
Yeah.
You do not deserve to be a business owner in the fucking slightest if your only method to be able to do so is exploiting workers. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of the case. Oh, but that's not fair. I want to be a little small business owner. I couldn't give two shits.
Yeah,
sorry, mate.
You don't have a right.
Life's not fair.
You don't have an absolute right to that. You have to actually pay your employees and give them basic basic employment rights, at the very least. I would argue you need to give them much more enhanced workers' rights, but, you know. Let's go with basic ones for now.
The fact that the very first thing that they took issue with in this piece was protecting people from unfair dismissal. Not just any dismissal, not
I
probation periods,
want to do
unfair.
the unfair dismissals. Oh. I just wanted to put him into the mincing machine because he hadn't been here 2 years yet. Honest to God, this is tragic. If you can't run a business treating your workers like human beings and paying them accordingly, you go bust. You're not guaranteed to win in capitalism, at least in theory. So,
learn
to code.
The biggest tell of all of this is they say, oh, well, then I'll have to go back to be a normal worker like everybody else. I'm like, yes, and then you'll need the employment laws, won't you?
Yeah, also, what's so bad about being a worker? Apparently we've got all these fucking amazing rights that are keeping the boot on the neck of the wealth creators. So what's the problem with you going back to being a regular worker? Oh, yeah, because you know that actually it's the corporate gods that have all of the power.
And of course, the real madness here is that having increased taxes on employment, having increased the cost of employment, and now having insisted on these confidence-crushing and job-destroying reforms to employment law, ministers say they're on a mission to get people back into work, off welfare and into jobs. Which jobs? In bars, shops and restaurants? Forget it, they can't afford it now. On a flexible basis to gain skills and confidence? Not under these reforms. Even the most public-spirited and benevolent employer will think twice about giving someone a chance.
Benevolent? Again, you don't understand capitalism. There are no benevolent employers.
There are no benevolent actors.
No,
this is purely a system of personal incentive.
Yeah, it's I mean, essentially, it's selfishness systematized. That you're encouraged to be as selfish and ruthless as you possibly can for your own self-interest. It's not benevolent. They don't employ people for the good of the employee. They employ people because it's going to help them make more money.
No. That they have deigned to have provided the dignity of work to these people. They're job creators, which is the worst phrase I've ever heard in my life. I hate the term job creators. It drives me up the bloody wall. That's some cultural neoliberalism bullshit. Yeah. But given that we just talked about DWP and the welfare changes, about getting people off welfare and into work, how about most people who are on welfare, who are on job seekers, for example, would be more likely to get into work if the work didn't fucking suck, because they have no employment rights and they have shitty pay. Yeah. Maybe if these businesses offered some competitive pay and employee perks, and these people were protected from poor employment practices, I don't know, through some kind of regulatory law, or whatever that might look like, they might be more likely to get off welfare and into work. It's just a thought.
Yeah. There are always some odd ones out. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are some individual, like, mom and pop shops who do take a personal interest and do care about their employees and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, in capitalism, those people are penalised. Because if they pay their workers more, it means their competitors can undercut the prices and take business from them. They're financially penalised for giving a fuck about their employees.
Because the government has made it illogical and very high risk to do so. At this time,
But I thought you were risk takers. Roll the dice. Go for it, lad. Benevolent. Suck my dick.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Fucking benevolent. Oh. Benevolently use some Just for Men on your fucking beard, you prick.
economic uncertainty. The government's number one mission should be on supporting businesses and supporting job creation.
Why? Hang on, whoa, time out. Why should that be their number one priority on anything? Is the living standard of the individual not more important? Is the worth of an individual only on the basis of being exploited by capitalists?
And again, just like look at any country from Northern Europe, for example, where these workers' rights are commonplace and high levels of trade union representation are much more commonplace. Has the sky fallen in? Have jobs been slashed everywhere? Well, actually, no. These countries have higher levels of labour force participation than we do. So all of this scaremongering is essentially, as I said, cope for the actual reality where they're trying to smuggle through with this bullshit, which is that employers just don't want to pay more. They just don't want to have to deal with being nice to workers because it's against their material interests.
Yep. They want to unfairly dismiss as and when it suits them.
What could matter more? Instead, they've made life for employers harder, riskier, more expensive.
Oh, you poor employer. Can't someone think of the employers? Fuck off. Literally, you have been given everything you could have possibly wanted for the last 50 fucking years. And you've destroyed the country. Thanks. I mean, we're living through our, what, third or fourth once-in-a-lifetime economic slump? Because there's no red tape anywhere. I say we need to start creating again, right? We need to start industry again. Get the red tape factories open.
Let's go.
And more complicated. Slow clap. Well, that's it from me.
I do hope you get slow clap, yes.
This week. Stay up to date and in the know with the City AM
No,
app.
actually,
and
I
on
won't.
City
No.
I won't download the City AM app. I wonder what the comments look like.
They've got 11 comments, which is not great for a 62,000 subscriber channel, but there we go. There's nothing wrong with the employment laws we already have. The new laws are all about taking control of you. Okay, Bob.
Literally, this is, I tell you what, I will guarantee you 100% that commenter is a World Economic Forum conspiracy theorist.
Or a bot.
Like, yeah, the government is trying to take control of the bourgeois. And I'm like, come on, mate. The last people who should be caring about being controlled are the people who already have the access to the means of production. Like, like the cry, the absolute fucking wail of the petite bourgeois as literally anything happens to impact their little kind of nest egg wealth that they've built.
Yeah. You can't argue with that. This government is a bad joke.
Just did, mate.
Yeah. I agree these laws are bad, but when I was a lot younger, I would send a CV to get interviewed, then either get the job or not. Now you put in your CV, then companies give you examination/test and multiple interviews. That is because most people now lie on their CVs, and employers cannot get rid of these incompetent liars. That's just mental. What the fuck was that's nothing. And yet football players receive £300,000 a week, whereas the average wage isn't enough to buy a house. So, ... True. I mean, okay. I'm not sure that was relevant to anything, but okay.
I mean, wages need to be higher. That's what the employment laws are for.
I guess, but I don't know what that's got to do with a football player's wage. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I just made all my staff redundant. Had enough. We'll go back to work in the city. There's a lot of bridges. There's a lot of bridges you have to cross in the city, isn't there?
First of all, I don't believe you, and
Yeah.
second of all, if it is true, and I'm just like, well, then you're just a massive arsehole, aren't you? It's like, oh well, I had to make all of my people unemployed rather than treat them like humans. Well, there you didn't treat them, so you didn't treat them like humans in the first place, then.
Yeah. Government after government have been giving money away to the steel industry for years, wasting money time after time. Okay. And then the final one. Quote, warning against dismissal from unfair dismissal, unquote. If it's not unfair, what's the issue? This issue is a load of companies are practicing unfair and poor dismissal practices and getting away with it as a system has loopholes. Companies need to get over it. True.
An excellent quote to end the segment on. Absolutely, companies do need to get the fuck over it.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate. Life's not fair.
Yeah, companies have had the run of the place. And now there's even I mean, it's pretty weak sauce. A lot of these changes, they're not massively brilliant or anything.
No,
I'm not super happy about them, but they're better than nothing. And even then, like the CBI have to write a letter, and Keir Starmer's a wanker, so he'll probably give in to it, saying, "Oh, won't you won't you listen to the employers?"
That's the thing, right? Is that the reforms we're getting are what the unions wanted, filtered through 1,000 layers of Morgan McSweeney and Pat McFadden diddling with the figures, right, and changing it from the back end, you know. So it's not even the full ones that we wanted, but it's still fine. It beefed up at the end because the unions came back for more. But I think essentially what we're seeing here is when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of who gets more remuneration from the production of society, capital owners have been getting the lion's share of all of it for the last 46 years, you know? And they have been accustomed to being the ones who reap the dividends of capitalism. And workers have been at the sharp end receiving nothing. Now workers are getting like very, very slightly more. These people feel like they are under the boot of Lenin. And it's actually Keir Starmer of all people.
Yeah, Keir Starlin, more like.
Yay!
Fucking hell, unbelievable. Oh, God, I hate this government so much. I mean, even when they're doing something good, it's still a bit shit. Although, on a bit of fluff to end with, I had a conversation with Super Tansky on Twitter today. I didn't realise she'd left the Labour Party.
I didn't realise that either.
She tried to fob me off, and it was like, the subscription just lapsed, and I didn't renew it. Okay, then. Well, I'll just ask the question with one extra step. What made you not renew the membership, you know? She didn't get back to me after that, which is fine. But yeah, so they've lost Tansky, which means I don't know if they've got any support left. I think it's just Bowler Hat Man.
James O'Brien.
James O'Brien and Bowler Hat Man are the 2 votes they're going to get at the next election. Bad times for Labour. But they deserve to lose. And as much as the government that replaces them is going to be abysmal, I will,
it has to die.
I will at least celebrate the fact that they're going to lose because they've deserved it. Yeah.
Yeah, quite literally, they absolutely have to lose. They must lose. They should be destroyed. Again, you know, without referencing the thing I said I wasn't going to reference. You know, the Labour Party has to die. It has to be absolutely buried in the black flesh of the earth for the rest of eternity. It must be destroyed. They are the biggest impediment to social progress in this country, and the only way we'll see any is if the Labour Party is gone for good. It is exiled to the annals of history where it belongs.
Yes. 100%, yeah. Labour just took a step to the right. They did. Clara Zoom, you should hit the follow button. It seems like you would enjoy it here. Or maybe not, I don't know. But hit the follow button anyway. Even if you never come back, it makes my numbers look better. And go and follow No Justice MTG. And on that bombshell, who should we raid into?
I think we should rate into Rachel Gilmore because she's got lots of viewers and she's covering the Canadian prime ministerial debate between Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, okay. I don't think I follow them.
So it's just Rachel_Gilmore is the channel.
Well, I'll go with
and on YouTube,
My Left Eye on YouTube.
On YouTube, I'm going to go into the Rational National, who's also covering the election debate.
Fair enough, yeah.
I know, because I know that one of my chatters went over there as well. So,
hang on, who are we raiding into on Twitch? I've totally forgotten you already. You said it 10 seconds ago.
Rachel_Gilmore.
Rachel. Oh yes, no, actually I do follow her. What am I fucking talking about? Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. By the way, Poilievre, God, has anyone fucked up an election worse than this?
I mean, it's Trump. They can't really. But Poilievre is still maintaining a lot of support, but Trump has just corralled the opposition around Carney.
True. Marx Carney.
Marx Carney. I mean, he's doing house communism,
Yes.
developer communism.
True. Okie doke.
Anyway,
everyone go and follow No Justice MTG on all of the platforms.
Do the same with KFLogan1875 on Twitch. That's not KFLogan1875 on Twitter. And Ploppy111 over on the YouTubes. Go and follow. That's an order.
Much love.
Yeah. I'm back tomorrow in the afternoon. You're back for the happy hour tomorrow evening?
I am indeed. We've got Christy and Steve Shives tomorrow.
Steve Shives, excellent.
Yeah.
Good to see. Well, as always, take care, stay safe, and of course...
Free Palestine!
On the river to the sea. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.